Silence has a language that most people overlook, yet it often carries more truth than spoken words. When emotions are complicated and pride, confusion, or fear are involved, people rarely express their real feelings directly. Instead, they communicate through small behaviors, subtle actions, and quiet signals. In female psychology especially, silence is not always a sign of indifference or emotional closure. Sometimes it is the opposite. It can mean she is processing, reflecting, and trying to understand what she truly feels before she allows those emotions to be seen again. When a woman is completely finished with someone emotionally, her silence is usually absolute. It becomes distant, empty, and disconnected. She no longer checks, no longer wonders, and no longer invests mental energy into what that person is doing. The absence becomes clean and final. But when silence carries hidden meaning, it behaves differently. It becomes observant rather than absent. It lingers in the background. She may not speak often, but she is still paying attention. She may not reach out directly, but something inside her is still engaged with the connection that once existed. This kind of silence is not cold. It is thoughtful. It is the silence of someone who is thinking deeply, weighing memories, emotions, and possibilities. Instead of rushing back with dramatic words or emotional declarations, she studies the situation quietly. She watches how you move forward, how you behave, and whether the version of you she remembers is still the same or has changed. Words can be spoken quickly, but observation takes patience, and patience usually appears when someone still cares enough to look. Small actions begin to replace loud communication. She might view your updates, notice your progress, or quietly follow what is happening in your life without making her presence obvious. These behaviors may seem insignificant, but psychologically they reveal that emotional detachment has not fully happened. When someone truly no longer cares, they remove themselves from the story entirely. They stop observing because the story no longer matters to them, but when she remains quietly aware, it means part of her mind is still connected to the narrative you once shared. Silence can also serve as emotional protection. Returning too quickly can make a person feel vulnerable, especially if the past involved disappointment, misunderstanding, or pain. Instead of exposing her feelings immediately, she allows distance to act as a shield while she studies whether it is safe to open that door again. This does not mean she has made a decision yet. It simply means she is giving herself the time and emotional space needed to evaluate what her heart is telling her. Another powerful aspect of silent communication is that it reveals authenticity. Words can sometimes be used to mask true feelings, but patterns of behavior rarely lie. The way someone observes, reacts subtly, or stays quietly present often exposes emotions that are not ready to be spoken yet. Silence becomes a form of emotional honesty that operates beneath the surface of conversation. Understanding this requires emotional maturity. Many people assume silence means rejection or disinterest, but the reality is often more complex. Sometimes silence is the mind searching for clarity and the heart slowly deciding whether the connection that once mattered still deserves another chance. Curiosity is rarely random when emotions are involved. When someone begins asking about your life again, it often signals that your presence has quietly returned to their thoughts. In relationships, curiosity is one of the earliest psychological signs that emotional distance may not be as permanent as it once seemed. When a woman starts showing interest in how you are doing, what you are working on, or whether you are happy, it reflects something deeper than simple politeness. It reflects a renewed awareness of you as a person who still holds meaning in her mind. When feelings are truly gone, curiosity fades naturally. People do not invest mental energy into people they have completely detached from. The mind protects itself by redirecting focus elsewhere. Questions disappear because the answers no longer matter. But when curiosity reappears, it means attention has quietly returned. Something about you, your growth, your life, or even the memory of the connection you once shared has sparked a renewed interest in understanding where you are now. This curiosity is often subtle at first. It might appear through small questions that seem casual on the surface. She might ask how work is going, what you have been doing lately, or what new goals you are pursuing. These questions may sound simple, but psychologically, they reveal that she is mentally reconnecting with your world. She is trying to update the image she has of you. The version of you that existed when the relationship ended may no longer be accurate, and curiosity becomes the tool she uses to see whether you have changed. Curiosity also reflects emotional safety returning. When a relationship ends, there is often a period where communication feels uncomfortable or guarded. Questions feel risky because they might reopen feelings that someone is trying to avoid. But when curiosity begins to replace that emotional distance, it suggests that the barrier protecting her emotions is slowly lowering. She is allowing herself to become interested again, even if she has not fully admitted why. Another powerful aspect of curiosity is that it signals imagination. When she asks about your life, she is not only gathering information, she is also forming a new mental picture of who you are today. She may be comparing the past with the present, wondering whether the problems that once existed have changed. She may be noticing growth, maturity, or a different direction in your life. This process naturally leads the mind to explore possibilities. Once curiosity opens the door, the imagination begins to wonder what things might look like if the connection were revisited. Curiosity can also reveal lingering emotional attachment. The mind tends to revisit people who once held significance because the emotional story does not feel fully finished. Questions become a way of exploring whether the story truly ended or whether it simply paused. Each answer she receives helps her understand whether the connection still holds value or whether it belongs completely in the past. What makes curiosity so powerful is that it often appears before any direct emotional admission. A person may not say they miss you or that they are reconsidering the relationship, but their questions quietly reveal that you are back in their thoughts. Curiosity becomes the first spark that reconnects attention, emotion, and possibility. Observation is one of the most revealing behaviors when it comes to hidden emotional attachment. When someone continues to watch your life from a distance, it often means that their emotional connection has not fully disappeared. They may not openly express interest, they may not start long conversations, and they may not directly admit that they still care. Yet their quiet attention reveals something important. Your life still matters enough deep radam to notice. Human attention naturally follows emotional importance. People tend to observe what holds meaning in their minds. When someone is completely over a relationship, their attention shifts elsewhere. They stop checking updates, stop wondering what the other person is doing, and gradually detach from the story that once connected them. Their mind moves forward because there is no emotional pull, keeping their focus on the past. But when observation continues, even quietly, it shows that part of their emotional awareness is still linked to you. This kind of observation often happens without obvious interaction. She may watch your social media stories, notice changes in your routine, or quietly follow milestones in your life. She might not react, comment, or message you about it, but she is still aware. Psychologically, this behavior reflects a form of emotional monitoring. Her mind is gathering information, updating the picture she has of who you are now and how your life is evolving. Observation also allows someone to process their feelings safely. Direct communication requires vulnerability. It exposes emotions and opens the possibility of rejection, misunderstanding, or renewed conflict. Watching from a distance, however, allows her to stay emotionally protected while still satisfying her curiosity. She can learn about your growth, your mindset, and your direction without placing herself in a position where she feels exposed. Another important element of observation is comparison. When someone watches your life after a relationship ends, they are often comparing the present version of you with the version they remember. They may be noticing changes in your attitude, your habits, your confidence, or your priorities. These observations help reshape their perception of you. If they begin to see positive growth, it can shift the emotional narrative that once defined the relationship. Observation can also be connected to unfinished emotional questions. When relationships end, they rarely close every emotional chapter perfectly. Sometimes there are lingering thoughts, doubts, or reflections about what could have been done differently. Watching your life allows her to quietly answer some of those questions. She may be looking for signs of whether you have learned, matured, or taken a different path. What makes observation so meaningful is that it requires continued mental attention. People do not consistently watch what they no longer care about. Attention is one of the clearest indicators of emotional investment. Even silent observation suggests that your presence still occupies a small space in her awareness. In many cases, observation happens before any direct reconnection. It becomes the stage where emotions slowly rebuild curiosity and understanding. Before someone decides whether they want to step closer again, they often spend time watching from the distance, allowing their thoughts and feelings to quietly sort themselves out. Personal growth has a powerful psychological effect on how people reassess past relationships. When someone witnesses genuine change in a person they once cared about, it can challenge the emotional conclusions they previously reached. Growth introduces a new version of someone, and that new version can reopen doors that once felt permanently closed. It shifts perception and invites the mind to reconsider whether the relationship that once failed could now exist under different circumstances. When relationships end, they often do so because certain patterns, behaviors, or emotional dynamics made the connection unsustainable. Over time, those experiences form a strong memory in the mind. That memory becomes the lens through which someone views the person they left behind. If nothing appears to change, that lens remains fixed, reinforcing the belief that returning would only lead to the same outcome. But when visible growth appears, that mental image begins to weaken. Growth can show itself in many ways. It may appear through emotional maturity, greater self-awareness, improved communication, stronger discipline, or a clearer sense of purpose. Sometimes it is reflected in the way someone handles challenges or carries themselves with more stability and confidence. These changes do not need to be loudly announced. Often they are noticed through consistent behavior over time. Subtle shifts in attitude, decisions, and lifestyle can communicate transformation more convincingly than words ever could. From a psychological perspective, seeing growth triggers a natural process of reevaluation. The mind begins to question whether the past still defines the present. The version of you that existed during the relationship may no longer be the same person she sees today. This creates cognitive contrast between memory and reality. The brain starts comparing who you were with, who you appear to be now, and that comparison can soften previous judgments or assumptions. Growth also creates emotional safety. If someone left because they felt unheard, unsupported, or emotionally drained, witnessing personal development can suggest that those conditions may no longer exist. The idea of returning becomes less threatening because the environment they once struggled with may have evolved. In this way, growth does not only improve a person individually, it reshapes the emotional landscape of the relationship itself. Another powerful element of growth is that it restores respect. Respect plays a central role in attraction and emotional connection. When someone sees that you have used time apart to reflect, improve, and build a stronger version of yourself, it naturally changes. It's how they view you. Instead of seeing someone stuck in the same patterns, they begin to see someone who has taken responsibility for their own development. Growth also influences curiosity about what a future could look like. If the person she remembers is different from the person she now observes, her mind may begin to explore possibilities that once seemed impossible. The relationship is no longer limited to the old story. It becomes a new scenario where two people might meet again with greater understanding and maturity. What makes personal growth so influential is that it operates without pressure. It does not demand someone's return or try to persuade them with promises. Instead, it quietly demonstrates change through actions and consistency. Over time, that demonstration can reshape how someone feels, how they remember the past, and how they imagine the future. When a relationship ends and two people consider reconnecting, the most important truth is that returning to the exact same dynamic rarely works. The past relationship ended for a reason. Certain patterns, misunderstandings, habits, or emotional gaps created enough tension to break the connection. If those same conditions remain unchanged, reopening the relationship simply repeats the same cycle that caused the separation in the first place. That is why true reconciliation requires a completely new foundation rather than an attempt to restore what once existed. A relationship that survives a breakup and finds its way back together must evolve into something different from its original form. Both individuals have already experienced the weaknesses that existed before. They know where communication failed, where emotional needs were ignored, and where trust may have weakened. Those memories cannot simply be erased. Instead, they must be acknowledged and used as lessons that reshape how the relationship functions moving forward. Building a new foundation begins with awareness. Each person has to recognize the patterns that once caused harm or distance. Without that awareness, people unconsciously fall back into familiar behaviors, even when they intend to do better. Emotional growth allows both individuals to see their own role in what happened, not just the mistakes of the other person. This kind of accountability creates the space for real change rather than superficial promises. A healthier relationship also requires stronger communication than before. Many relationships fail not because of a lack of feelings, but because important emotions remain unspoken. Assumptions replace honest conversations, and frustration grows silently until it becomes impossible to ignore. When two people reunite with a commitment to open communication, they create a system where problems can be addressed early instead of being allowed to grow into deeper conflicts. Trust is another essential piece of the new foundation. But after a breakup, trust is often fragile. Even if the separation did not involve betrayal, emotional wounds can leave both people cautious. Rebuilding trust does not happen through words alone. It develops through consistent behavior, reliability, and patience. Each positive action slowly replaces the uncertainty that once existed, allowing both individuals to feel safe investing in the connection again. Respect must also deepen in a renewed relationship. Respect means valuing each other's boundaries, individuality, and emotional needs. When respect grows stronger, it reduces the chances of repeating past mistakes. Instead of taking each other for granted, both people begin to understand the importance of protecting the connection they almost lost. Another key element of a stronger foundation is personal independence. Healthy relationships are built between two individuals who continue growing as individuals. When people rely entirely on the relationship for their identity or happiness, pressure builds quickly. But when each person maintains personal goals, interests, and self-respect, the relationship becomes a partnership rather than a dependency. True reconciliation is not about pretending the past never happened. It is about learning from it. The experiences that once caused pain become the very lessons that guide a stronger connection. When two people approach the relationship with greater maturity, patience, and emotional awareness, they are no longer trying to recreate what they lost. Instead, they are creating something new that has the strength to last where the old version could not.